All right, welcome back. My name is Darren Thomas, and I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this video, we're going to be looking at how we can find potential examples of fraud when we do not know the number of clusters we need using Python. And so, in case you don't know, we're using data that we're going to assume is unlabeled, and then we're going to derive clusters from those using not k-means, but something called dbScan, which is an acronym for something. I kind of forget what it is, but we're going to take a look at how this particular acronym works. All right, so I'm inside uh, my Jupyter, and I'm going to start by, of course, loading my various libraries that I'm going to be using. That's my first little goal here. And so we're going to be using something called dbScan. That's kind of the new star of this particular video. Again, I don't recall what the acronym stands for. Excuse me. You can, of course, Google that. But it's a different type of clustering that you can use when you do not know how many clusters are best. Remember when we did the analysis with k-means, we had to try to calculate with the elbow plot how many clusters we might want to need and then set the KNN algorithm parameter to that. With dbCluster, you don't worry about that. It kind of does it for you. The next two lines here are, of course, pandas and NumPy. We use these all the time. This line right here with the metrics is going to give us a homogeneity score and silhouette score. These help us to figure out the quality of our actual clusters that we're making. Again, the details, you can kind of Google those on your own, but they give you an idea of the quality. And lastly, our min-max scaler is for scaling our data for pre-processing purposes. Excuse me still. And this last line is just where we're going to load our data from. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, in the next line, we're going to be preparing our data. So what we're doing right here is we're pulling all of the rows, of course, right here. All of the rows, that's what that is. And we're taking columns 1 and 2. Now, remember, Python is 0 index. So we're skipping the first column, taking the first and second, skipping 0, we're skipping column 1, we're taking columns 2 and 3, excuse me. And then we also want to take 4 through 9. So we're skipping column number 3, if you will, or you can say column number 4, however you want to think. I know 0 index is kind of weird if you're, used to other forms. And so the reason we're skipping that one column is because those are our ground truth. In other words, we actually know whether our data is fraud or not fraud. But what we're doing in this analysis is we are pretending we don't know. We're going to do the analysis, and then we're going to compare what the algorithm says is fraud to what is actually fraud. Most of the time, you can't do this. Once you do a cluster analysis, whatever is identified as potential examples of fraud, you have to allow your subject experts to actually assess if that's correct or not. But because we have the actual truth, we can know as a fact. So this analysis, this example I'm presenting to you right now is not 100% realistic, but it gives you an idea of how to approach it. So this is right here setting up our independent variables. This right here setting up our dependent variable, which we're not supposed to know, but we're going to pretend we don't know. And then we're going to convert it to a float type. So that's what we're going to do right here. Now, we're going to scale our data because just like all other clustering algorithms, dbScan is sensitive to scale. So you want everything to have the same range, basically. Otherwise, whoever has the largest range will have the most influence, and you don't want that. So we create an instance of our min-max scaler, and then we do a fit transform on it using our independent variables. So go ahead and run this. And so now we're going to do our cluster development. All right, so what's happening here? There are certain parameters you have to set when you want to use your dbScan. Epsilon, it's like how far apart they can be. Again, you can look up the various hyperparameters on your own in Python, but you have to set this to something. So we set it to 0.9 to start it off. There's lots of different values you can play with. The minimum number of samples right here is what's the smallest number of samples we can have in one cluster. We set that to 10. You can change that. This -1 here has to do with processing, very common. And then we also run the fit and we take the scale X data right here. Okay. And so essentially what we're doing here is this. The clusters that have the small sample size, around 10 or so, these might be clusters where you have outliers, because the reason they're small is because they're very different from the other clusters. So if there's a small number there, that might be a place where there's some actual outliers, lurking, if you will. And so then we have to label these, obviously. So we pull our labels from the actual output of our DB right here, which we'll look at that in a second. Matter of fact, I should run these separately so that we can kind of see everything step by step. Let me do that. So we get the labels right here, then we get the number of clusters. And so let me just make one more column. I want to take these things step by step so you can see what's going on. All right, so we're just going to do DB right here. Take a quick look at it. All right, so there's not a whole lot to see here, not very exciting, but we are done. Now next, we're going to take a look at this. Let me just go ahead and run this for you. And so now you can see that they're giving us all these different values here. We got a 0, 1, we got a -1. There's lots of different values here. And now we're going to see how many clusters do we have. So we set it. We take the length of the predicted labels right here. Subtract 1 if -1 in pre-labels, or else put a 0. So that's what we're doing here. And so then we take a look at this, and you can see we have 25 unique clusters. That's what we're doing there. So we have 25 clusters in our data. Now we can kind of get an idea of the assessment right here. So we're going to print a lot of different metrics right here, 3 to be precise. We're going to start with that. And so let me just make sure things are clear. We actually set up our clusters right here, and then we pull the labels right here. And so you can see that we have, several different labels, and now we want to actually count them. So we take the length of pred labels minus 1 if -1 in pred labels, otherwise put a 0. So if it's -1, we count it, otherwise put a 0. And so now we have 25 distinct clusters. Now, we're going to take a look at 3 different values here. We already know the number of clusters because I kind of put it up here. But we're going to look at homogeneity and silhouette coefficient. And so homogeneity is 0.92 and silhouette coefficient is 0.56. I think homogeneity can go from 0 to 1. Don't quote me on that. You can look it up on Google. And I think silhouette coefficient goes from -1 to +1. And so each of these is a measure of the strength of the actual cluster that we're looking at here. So again, this is, relative, obviously. I mean, they do have absolute values, but you might want to play with these things to try to prove it. And the best way to try to improve these numbers would probably be to manipulate the hyperparameters that you're using, whether it's epsilon or minimum underscore samples. Those would be ways to manipulate that in addition to other things you might want to do. But we're just going to keep going here because we just want to experience this. Now, we're going to figure out, okay, how many samples do I have in each cluster? That's kind of the next thing we're curious about. And so here's the output right here. So we do counts, NP from NumPy, obviously, bin count, pred labels that are greater than or equal to 0. And so then we count all of these. And so you can see there should be 25 different numbers right here. You can count them if you're bored. And so this is the sample size. So you can see a couple of these are pretty small. We got a 10, and an 11 here. And so that might be where there's some potential outliers. Who knows? And so now we're going to pull the smallest. And so we're pulling the smallest 3. And so what we're doing here is we're going to say smallest clusters. NP, we're going to sort the counts, and we're going to take, the 3. Then we're going to print that. Then we're going to figure out where there might be some examples of fraud. And so let me just go ahead and show you this. So first is pulling the actual number of the clusters. So clusters 21, cluster 18, cluster 24. That's kind of how that works out. And then it's also going to tell us, okay, what's their sample size, 10, 10, and 11. Now, if you look closely, just from eyeballing it, which many times you can't do this because you might have hundreds of clusters. I'm already seeing I got one right here, 2, 3, and 4. So I have 4 clusters. 2 of them have 11, 2 of them have 10. So that's already kind of a flag to me that maybe 4 clusters is better. Again, you can manipulate this as you see fit, but those are the results right now. And again, most of the time you can't eyeball it like that. You know, you'll be dealing with so many that it'll be impossible to know. So let's go ahead and take this. Now we're going to take a look at the confusion matrix and the output. So here's what we're doing. We're making a data frame called DF. And so it's going to have our predicted labels and, of course, our Y. Now, remember, most of the time, you're not going to know this. So this is unique to this video. And so what we're doing here is we're going to create something called predictive fraud, where the cluster is equal to 10 or is equal to 11. So in doing that, we're going to capture these 4 clusters. One, this 10 right here is 2, another 10 is 3, and this one is going to make 4. Okay, that's what we're doing there. And so what we're doing here is that we're predicting fraud when the cluster are 10 or 11. That's what's happening. If their values are 10 or 11, we are going to put a 1. Otherwise, they're all going to be 0. And then we just do a cross tab. We've done this many, many times. And we even get the rows in the columns names here. All right, so then we run this. And whoa, you can see we have a lot of disasters here. We have a lot of false positives, we have a lot of false negatives, and we have none of the actual true positives. All right, so this analysis was actually a complete and total disaster. And so you would have to find ways to improve this because this is really bad. But again, remember, our goal wasn't so much to, accurately predict fraud, but rather to go through the process of using dbScan. And so again, we could go back and we might want to say, okay, maybe if we include anything that is like maybe 19 and below, it might improve the values as an example. So for example, when dB is less than, let's see if this will work. Less than 20, let me get rid of this. Let's see how we do now. I hope this works. It's always awkward to do it in front of everybody. Yeah. So now you can see we have another problem, and now we have a bunch of, I think this is false positives over here, complete disaster, but we did get some true positives now. So again, there's a lot of manipulation you could use to try to improve that. But you can see that there's always problems in how we deal with this. Really, really bad. Let's see here. So that's definitely not going to work. But you get the idea that dbScan is one way where you can try to segment your data to find instances of fraud and instances that are not fraud. And of course, in this example, we did not do very well at all. Really, really bad. But you understand the process. So let me go back and summarize this and wrap up the video. So in this video, we took a look at how we can figure out fraud when we don't know the number of clusters. Okay, we've done k-means in the past where we determine the number of clusters, but what about when we don't know the number of clusters? So we use an algorithm called dbScan. Then we set up our data. There's nothing exciting happening here. We scaled our data, again, not exciting. Then we actually created an instance of our dbScan. There's a couple of hyperparameters you have to set. And from that, you extract the labels just to see them. That's why we did that. And the number of clusters, which turned out to be 25. We printed some metrics to kind of see how strong our clusters might be. Again, these are values that you can figure out the quality by Googling them. In the next cell right here, these are like the actual sample sizes of each individual cluster. We kind of try to take a peek at, okay, which clusters are the most frequent. That's what we, our smallest sample size, and then we did our crosstabs analysis. So again, I want to thank you so much for listening and watching this video. My name is Darren Thomas. I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. Thank you again for watching, and you take care.